Okay, so we are learning today some interesting halachas. Today's Gemara is going to touch on. Does anybody here have a special shluf couple?
I do, but I always lose it under the bed, and I don't bother finding it.
I have two couples. One's a shluf couple, but I don't know which is which. So whichever one I find is the one. There's actually a shaila halacha. If you're mechuyev to have, you're supposed to have special big day Shabbos. There is hakpada. The Vilna Gaon was makbid to even have a special couple, special shluf couple for Shabbos. So that's somewhat.
Some people have a special couple they daven with, no? You see people take out of the talis bag.
Yeah, I thought that's because if they wear the regular black one, the velvet rubs off on your talis and then it becomes black.
Uh-huh.
So they take a non-velvet one. They take like a regular one, but I don't know.
I never heard of that. Wow.
That's why the talis becomes black. I thought it was the sweat.
Okay.
Okay.
Today's. I didn't turn on the broadcast, but you did.
I did.
The title of today's shir is "You Nailed It."
What is it?
You nailed it.
You nailed it. Oh, sounds good.
That's going to be the title.
Okay.
You nailed it.
You nailed it.
Today's shir is Le'ilu, is sponsored by Reb David Zolti and family, Le'ilu Nishmis, Reb Moshe, and Reb Chaim, who is the Shaman should have an aliyah, and he should be made with for us, that we should all be very much liach and get out of this mess quickly and easily.
Rebroadcast, retransmission, and other use of this telecast is encouraged.
You know, it turns
even
out,
without the express written consent of the Agudah Broadcasting Commission and the Agudah Israel of Toronto, of New York. What's the official legal name, Shlomi? I'm asking you. And Sholan as well.
Toronto.
What is it?
Agudah Israel Congregation.
Congregation of Toronto. Is encouraged.
Turns out that he was nifter as this virus was just coming to light in China. He was nifter on around the 10th of Kislev,
right?
And that's early December, and that's when he was. That's when we're just beginning to hear about it.
That's
if you think about it, it was a chesed, because had he been nifter much later, you wouldn't have even been able to spend the final moments with him.
Right.
He didn't let anybody in the house.
Sure.
That's right.
Wow.
I think that's the date that the guy from China said. I think he said, I have to look, he said it was the 10th of Kislev when he left China.
Wow.
I think that's what
he
said.
Who left China?
The guy
he corrected himself. He said Teves.
He said Teves?
Yeah, I think he corrected himself.
We have the videotape. We can go to the video.
We'll check.
Go check.
Who's this?
The Shliach, the Chabad Shliach.
From Chedung or Chedang?
Chengdu.
You heard there's another thing coming from China now. Some type of hornet.
Yeah, it's a killer hornet. It's called a killer hornet. It's 2-inch hornet, and it could bite through any normal beekeeper suit, and it could even kill a person if a person takes multiple bites from it, because its neurotoxins that it pumps into someone's skin is like 7 times the amount of a bee, and it doesn't lose its stinger when it stings. It's a pretty fatal type of animal.
So how is it going to travel?
You don't want to meet one in a dark alley.
Right, but how's it going to travel from
It came in a Chinese container ship. That's probably how it got here.
Oh, boy.
So now it's in Washington State. They're trying to eradicate it. It's very funny. You know, whenever you hear an advertisement about a fugitive, if you see him, he's dangerous. Don't approach him. Just call police. So they're saying simply, if you see one of those hornets, don't attack it. Just call the police, because they're afraid it's quite dangerous. And it decimates bee populations, which has
I find it interesting that Washington State was the first state that had the
virus.
Maybe it came on the same container ship. If I should get you.
Yeah, but it's coming. They're all coming through BC.
I also read just yesterday that they found another fatal symptom of coronavirus, and that is blood clots. And a lot of people were dying even after their breathing got better, they had 7 blood clots in their lungs, which also proved to be fatal. So it's still scary as well. Okay, we should all have Yeshua. We should get out of this better than before, stronger than before, smarter than before, happier than before, and richer than before.
Amen.
Duvi, today's Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Do we have a ticket?
Not yet. I'm going to get it this afternoon.
Okay. Dr. Haley, good morning, everybody. So we are up to rings
Dots.
with a
2 dots.
2 dots on Daf Nun Tes on the base, the 2 dots. So we learned about nose rings. I wanted to speak out that earrings, Rashi specifically says, is not a problem even in the Gemara's times, because women the way they wore their hair, it would be difficult to take an earring out, and it's not likely that a woman would take out an earring to show anybody. So Rashi right away gives an exemption, and we might as well learn that exemption. Although we're gonna learn it soon because it should be relevant to Rashi. It'll be the Rashi in what we're going to learn today. One may not go out with a tabas that doesn't have a chaysim. So the Gemara is medai. Not only may you not go out with it, you'll be chayev v'chatos, because that's not a tachshit at all. That's a masri. Alma, you see from the diak that we made from our Mishnah that lav tachshitu, a signet ring, is not a tachshit. It's a tool. Remini. Tachshit enoshim, to make a tachshit of a woman renders it a keli, and if it's a keli, it's makabel tuma. The elohein tachshit enoshim. What are things that are considered tachshitim for a woman, and that would render these things as a keli to make them tamei, even if otherwise they wouldn't be tamei because they're not formed into any type of keli. But the mere fact that they're a tachshit in and of itself gives it a chashivus of a keli, so that it could be the kabel tuma. Katlois, like we learned with chokers. Nizamim, rings, and nizamim are nose rings, I believe.
It's translated as earrings.
As earrings, okay.
Which is weird. Nezim is a nose ring.
The Gemara, the Bryce is going to get specific here. The Bryce is going to get specific because the Gemara that we ended with yesterday touched the Zomim in our Mishnah as Nizme'af, as nose rings. But here, in this Brisa, Lagabi, making something tummy, the Zomim could even be earrings, the Tabois and rings, the Tabas and a ring, the ring that we just identified a moment ago under the heading of Tabois as an example of a tachshit, that's a keli, the Kabel Tumah, it includes Bein Sheyesh Ala Chosim, Bein She'ein Ala Chosim, and then the Brisa explicitly lists Nizmei Af. So normally, when it says Nizam in plain, it might refer to Nizmei. Af. But since this Brisa explicitly lists Nizmei Af as an item, it must be that when it mentioned Nizamim before, it meant earrings. And that's probably why Rashi touches it as an earring. So I just want to learn Rashi Nizmei Af inside. Nizmei Af is on the last words of the very first wide line of Rashi at the bottom. Nizmei Af. One may wear earrings on Shabbos, and you're allowed to go outside with them. Earrings are hard to take off and to show them to your friend. Normally, a woman's ears are covered with the ribbons that have bound her hair. I'm not sure how they dress their hair in those days. Nowadays, I think earrings are very readily available to take out. But at least in those days, Rashi says that it was difficult to take your earrings out, and because of that, you're allowed to.
Yosy Simon?
Yes.
I don't understand the logic of Rashi, because if the earrings are difficult to take out, then the earrings should be difficult to see. And obviously the earrings want to be shown. They want to be seen. So why would they be difficult to be? How do we understand Rashi when he says the ribbons are covering the ears? They're covering the ears. Like what exactly are they covering? If they're not covering the earrings, and if they're not covering their earrings, then the earrings should be able to be taken out.
Did you ever buy your wife earrings?
Did I ever buy her earrings?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm afraid so. Go ahead.
What do they look like?
She gave them right back.
most fancy earrings actually plug into the ear and then hang down. Simpler
Right.
earrings just go into the earlobe, but fancy earrings hang down. So where you connect them might be covered, but the earring might be exposed further down. So
okay. So I bought the cheap ones that didn't hang down far enough.
no, now we know why she gave them back.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Tzvi, if you ever need an earring consultant, just go to Yossi. He knows where to get the expensive.
No, that won't get you back in. I'm telling you that right now. It's a very bad idea.
Yossi's out. David, Yossi knows because Yossi's a bit older than me, so his wife already had a chance to give it back. So that's how he learned earlier.
And I saw what she exchanged it for. Okay. Oh, he's up to his more weiter. Oh, so that's what I thought. I actually had your same difficulty. If it's covered, you can't access it. So why do I have it for? So it must be because the connection point is concealed, yet the actual earring might be visible. Don't tell my wife I know so much about jewelry. When she found out that I knew how to dry dishes, let me tell you something. It was big trouble. As a matter of fact, it costed me a small investment, but it was well worth it. The very first week I was married, I insisted on helping my wife do the dishes. And I was drying the stemware, and by mistake on purpose, I dropped an expensive piece of stemware. And she never let me get near the dishes since. So it costed me one piece of stemware, but it was a very good investment. Dr. Gomer weiter. Okay.
Yes, I just want to
Omer-
remind you that this is being streamed live on YouTube.
You nailed it.
Eddie.
Oh.
That's why it's called you nailed it, because now I'm nailed. Okay. So we have a list of tachshitim, and we say that the rings that a woman wears, sai that has a choshim, sai not, is considered a tachshit. So if it's considered a tachshit, why is it that if it has a choshim, we're medayik from our Mishnah that it's not a tachshit and it's considered a masoi and it be chiv chatos? This brayso clearly indicates that even a ring with a choshim on it, even that is a keli legabe tumah, and therefore it should be considered a tachshit and not a masoi. One Reb Zer like kasher. Reb Zer it's not fair at all, because in fact it's a machlokes if a signet ring is tachshit or not. Harab Nechemia, Harabaman. In fact, it's a machlokes Rab Nechemia and the Rabbanan. The Tanya, he shall matchus. If the ring is made out of metal, the choshim shall almud, but its choshim is made out of almud, tameyahi. I'm sorry, tameya, it's tamei, because you focus on the ring itself, not on the choshim. He shall almud, the choshim shall matchus. But if it's made out of wood and the choshim part is metal, tahira, again, because the chachamim hold you focus only on the ring, and the ring has to be made out of metal in order for it to be mekabel tumah. But Reb Nechemia metame. Reb Nechemia held it's tameh anyway. Shahoyer Reb Nechemia Omer b'tabas holach choshim. You always look at the choshim. So Reb Nechemia, who holds that the main part of the ring is the choshim, he's going to hold that it's not a tachshit. So our Mishnah, from where we're medayik, that hayeshel choshim chayeves, because it's not a tachshit, it's a masoi. Our mission is going to go according to Reb Nechemia, but Nechemia learns that the ikar of the tabas is the choshim, and the choshim for a woman for sure is not a tachshit. Ma'ashekin, this brayso who says that a ring with a choshim is mekabel tumah, if it's metal, is going according to Rabbanon that you focus on the ring, you don't focus on the choshim. So Reb Nechemia tells us a bunch of interesting halachas. So now we're going to get into Reb Nechemia. Reb Nechemia Tama, show Reb Nechemia Omer, v'tabas hoilach acher choshima, v'oil hoilach acher samloinov. Before we turn over the daf, I just want to focus one more time on this brayso about tumah, because the Gemara is going to offer another teretz to this kasha. So the kasha is, our Mishnah indicates that a signet ring is not a tachshit, it's a masoi. The brayso seems to indicate that a signet ring for a woman is also a tachshit because it's mekabel tumah, and on that the Gemara answers that Reb Nechemia holds that the choshim is ikar, and therefore it would not be a tachshit. And the brayso that says that a ring to become tamei is because the ikar is the ring, and we ignore the choshim part. The Gemara is going to have another text. The Gemara is going to say later on that you shouldn't be able to bring a raya from a brayso that's talking about tumah, which has different parameters to be metama something because it's a keli, and what it takes to be a tachshit. Because all tachshitim might be kalim, but not all kalim are necessarily tachshitim. But we'll get to that on the base. I just wanted to highlight this machlokes. So the Gemara weiter. The Chemi says whenever you look at a ring, the most important part of the ring is the chosim, and ba'oil, the most important part of a harness of a yoke that we put on auction, you go after the pegs. And Baruch Hashem, we have an arch girl here who could tell us exactly what it is. Let me make sure that it comes out clear on the screen. Let me just back this off a little bit so it focuses better. Okay, so imagine this is the neck of the animal. The yokes of more modern times were actually contoured to shape the neck of the animal. So this would be rounded, this would be rounded. But in the olden days, even in the Gemara's times, in the olden days, they just had a piece of wood that they put on top of the animal's neck and a piece of wood that they put underneath the animal's neck. And then they took two pegs that ran vertically. They drilled holes into the two horizontal pieces of wood. And they had two pegs that went vertically through them, which boxed in the neck of the animal that they would now able to connect to the harness that would connect to the plow that would that drag the plow. Now, these were always made out of wood. These were sometimes made out of metal, but sometimes they were made out of wood. Reb Nechemia is saying the most important part of the yoke assembly are these pieces. If these pieces are made out of metal, then the yoke is considered clay matches, and it would be tummy. But if these were made out of wood, then it's called a pshute kliach. It's called a flat piece of wood, and a straight piece of wood without any type of contour or base kibble, pshute kliach is not makabel tummy. So therefore, when you're looking at a old-fashioned yoke, which was pshute kliach and had no base kibble, it all depends on what these vertical pegs were made out of. If they were made out of metal, it's tame, because pshute klimatchis are tame. If it was made out of wood, it would be tame. The koilev, when you're looking at a koilev, hoilech achmer mismeroishav, you look at the mismeroishav. A koilev was a display stand that chenvanim store owners used to have, and it was in the shape of an inverted pyramid. It was pointy at the bottom, and it probably had some type of flat spot that it could stand on, and it got wider as it moved towards the top. So a big wooden triangle, and they had nails on it on which they would hang their goods that they wanted to display. So again, it's all pshute kliach, it's just a piece of wood. But if the nails, the pegs on which you're hanging your product are made out of metal, then it would be tummy. If not, it will be tar. Bisulam, if you have a ladder, even if the sides of the ladder are wood, it's irrelevant. You only look at the rungs. If the rungs of the ladder are made out of metal, then the ladder would be mekabel tumah. If not, it would not. The arsi, when you're looking at a balance scale, you look at the chains that hold up the receptacles, and I'll show a picture of it shortly. You never look at these little things. You look at the main item that supports it, and that will cause him to dispute all of the friyadik halachas that we said. So Rashi speaks out that manifests itself in many different ways. Either gufat habas maimed achosim. The most important thing is the ring, because the ring is what supports the chosim, right? The Nechemia held the chosim was the most important thing. Again, va'oil mamad aslumanov. Don't look at those vertical pegs. Look at the horizontal boards, because they are what hold the pegs up. Va'koilav is masmerishav. Again, when it comes to the display case, you look at the main body of this display case, not the little pegs that are on it. Va'sulam eshlivoisov. You don't look at the rungs. You look at the side bars of the ladder, which are the main foundation, the main support of the ladder. Shreibhem kavun. The arsa, and when it comes to the weigh scale, I'm going to look into the picture to show what it means. So this is what a scale looks like. It's not drawn to scale. So you have your two cups, which you put your product in. On one side you put the weight, the other side you put your product, and then there were these little chains that connected the cups to the balance beam. So Reb Nechemia says you go basar the shalshalois, you go basar these chains. If they're made out of metal, then this is going to be tameh or mekabel tameh. And the Chum hold you go buster this balance beam. This balance beam is what is supporting those chains. So it's the balance beam that counts. If it's made out of wood, it's not going to be Tomei. If it's made out of metal, it will be Makabel Tomei.
What about the vertical bar?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
I don't think the vertical bar, I was thinking of that myself. I don't think the vertical bar is an integral part of the scale, because technically all you need is this horizontal bar. All you really need is this horizontal bar, these two pieces. You can actually support it with anything. So it's not an integral part of the keli. This is just holding up the keli. I can technically use any makeshift thing as long as it supports it right at the center. That's what I was
It's still supporting it.
I understand, but
it's still supporting it.
Right, so, but that's like saying, if I put a keli on the table, then the keli status of tumah depends on what the table is made out of.
If the keli cannot operate without the table, then the table is part of the keli.
I hear your perspective.
You can hold the scale out with your hands like this. Right, you hold your scale out like this with your hands, it can still work. The scales will still function.
Akiva and Victor, thank you for giving me a hand over there.
Yossi, going back to the yoke, right?
Right.
So saying that the bars are the main thing and not the pegs.
Yeah, if you ask any tradesman, he'll say the most important part of their job is the bar.
So then is Rashi saying then therefore those are Makabel Tumah?
Well, the shaila is whether the whole assembly will be Makabel Tumah. The question is what determines if this whole assembly is Makabel Tumah or not. Is it the construction of the vertical pegs, or is it what the vertical pegs are made out of, or is it what the horizontal boards are made out of? What is the most important part of this keli that determines whether or not it's going to be a keli that's Makabel Tumah? Is it called a Pshudikli 8 or is it called a Pshudikli Mafis?
Okay, but even if it's 8s, since the bars are gonna have holes in them, right? So then can it be Makabel water or hold water or something like that?
Yeah, no, it's just a hole drilled right through it.
Okay.
In all of these cases, the force is being applied to the metal surface, not to the wood surface. Isn't that what's going on here?
The wood surface is just I don't know with clarity. If I'm not mistaken,
think about the anatomy of an animal. The shoulders, the metal bars, right, are going to go against the shoulders of the animal.
Oh, you were looking at it from that perspective. I was looking at it from which part of the yoke connects to the plow at the back.
Yeah.
And the part of the neck that connects to the plow at the back are the wooden pieces. But you're saying start from the source. The source of the energy is the ox, and it applies its force directly to the two vertical bars.
Same thing on the ladder. The force is applied to the metal rungs, not to the wood sides. On the scale, the force is being applied to the question is the force is being applied to the chains directly. That's metal, right? In all these cases, I think it's where's the force being applied?
Okay.
That's how I understood.
I hear. Very, very interesting. Okay, Valtic. So let's see what the Gemara says. So let's see what we have over here. Just want to do an inventory. So what we have over here is we have the machlokes between Nechemia and the Chomim. And Nechemia holds that at least by a ring you go basar the chosim, and therefore this is the chosim is the ikar. A ring that has a chosim on it is not considered a malbish or a tachshit. It's considered a masui, and that's why our Mishnah holds with the chayv chatas. Zog to Gemara. Rava has a different shot. Let's done katani. If you look back at the Brisa is not necessarily telling us what we think it is. So let's look back at the Brisa. It says v'tabois, and tabois are makabel tumah. V'tabas ben she'yel choshim ben she'enol choshim is as follows: the elohet echshita nashim. What are echshita nashim? Katlois nizam v'tabois. Now, what type of tabois are tachshit? Only a tabas that doesn't have a choshim. But what the Brisa said, v'tabois are tamei. The tabas is tamei ben sheyesh ala chosim. It's tamei because it's a keli. Ben she'ein ala chosim. If it doesn't have a chosim, and that's the tabas that we're referring to as a tachshit. So even though it's all under the heading of tabas, it's only the tabas. The Brisa only means to say that tabas she'ein ala chosim is the one that falls under the category of tachshit. So let's see the Gemara inside. If it has a chosim on, I'm sorry, either way it's a takshit. If it has a chosim, it's only the type of ring that a male would wear, and it would be a takshit. So let's go back to the Bryce again, because I typed it wrong a half a minute ago. So one of the things that are takshitim are tabois. It says but the boys are a takshit regardless. The takshit ben sheyeshel achosim is the tabas ben sheyeshel achosim is a takshit of a man. Ben sheyeshel achosim is a takshit of a woman, and the tabois that we're listing as takshit enoshim is referring to a takshit she'ein ala achosim. But in fact, even if it has a chosim, it's still a takshit. It's just not a takshit for a woman. It's a takshit for a man. Okay.
Yes, which is a little share because the Bryce starts off Elohim Takshit Enoshim.
Right. So that's the Rashi's shortest tries to perform. So Rashi's Rav Omer, Bryce the Ketoni v'Tabas have a takshit bein sheyeshel achosim bein she'ein achosim lava reisha iri. It's actually not going back on the reisha of the Brisa that's merely discussing Tachshit Enoshim. The Tachshit Enoshim Akaimi. It's not going, it's Lava Resha, the Iri, the Tachshit Enoshim Akaimi. It's not going back on the Resha, Kaimi Tavayu. Both these options of Yeshel Achoshim and Enel Achoshim are not going back to the Resha of the Brisa that says Tachshit Enoshim. The Chad Tachshit Ish, the Chad Tachshit Isha, L'tzadin Katani. So Rashi is sort of warning that the Brisa elaborates and it talks about rings. It's not listing everything that's a takshit of a woman, something that in fact would be a takshit of a man.
And what category do you put? Then what category do you put Nizmei off, which comes at the end of that price?
I don't know if that's relevant because if you look at the Brisa says this departure or this chiluk of Tabas bin Shalachoshim is all going back on the heading of the boys. Nizmeaf is a brand new category, going back, I guess, on Tachshit Enoshim. Right? So we're just going to, what are the
you have to read it. You have to read it as if it's in parentheses.
So, as if the that's in parentheses.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's just a little bit of an elaboration on one of the items in the Brisa. So the Brisa sort of took a small detour on it. Okay. The whole kasha that you're asking from a Brisa that's classifying a takshit as a keli to be bekabel tumah, and that's going to impact Shabbos, which the shaila is merely if it's a takshit or a masui. Kli ma'isa Omer Rachmana. By Shabbos it says that kli ma'isa is a problem. The keli, kli ma'isa the keli. Shabbos mishamasui Omer Rachmana. Okay, I'm getting confused. Tumah Shabbos karamis tumah. When you're talking about tumah, any keli that has a din of a keli is going to be something that we will kabel tumah. The keli, and since it's a keli, whether it has a choshim or not, either way it's considered a keli. Even if it's not considered a tachshit, it's still something that's going to be kabel tumah. That's where the Brisa lists off ben sheyeshel achoshim, ben she'ein achoshim. But Shabbos mishamasui Omer Rachmana. Shabbos, the main point is whether this is a masui or a tachshit. Even though it's a keli, but if it's a masui, it's also going to be also to carry. Therefore, einol achoshim tachshit. If it doesn't have a choshim, it's going to be a tachshit, meaning it's something that someone normally wears, and it's not considered a masui. But yeshel achoshim, it's a masui. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't be makabel tumah. So you can't bring any raya at all from the Brisa that's discussing tumah to the Brisa that's discussing to the Mishnah that's discussing Hilchos Shabbos. Although the raya was not because it has a status of tumah. The raya was, I assumed, in the Brisa, is because the Brisa states that it's a tachshit. The Brisa actually states it. So I don't have a chlorkite in Reb Nachman Yitzchak's teretz, because Reb Nachman Yitzchak is just saying, that when it comes to Hilchos Tumah, it doesn't matter if it's a tachshit or not, and L'gabe Shabbos, it doesn't matter. The shaila is, I don't know if the raya was ever from the Psak Halacha, the Brisa that is Tumah. I believe the raya was from the fact that the Brisa identifies it as a tachshit. Okay, Zok Tehillah Gemara weiter. Zok Tehillah Gemara weiter. V'loi b'machet she'ein nekuva. Another thing that a woman may not go out with is a machet that does not have a hole in it. Because again, if it had a hole in it, it becomes a keli, and that would be even chayiv. So this machet that does not have a hole, so it's just like a pin, what could it be used for? Omer Reb Yosef, hoil v'isha oigeres b'saira. Since what a woman will do is if she has loose hairs, she'll wrap it around this pin, and then she'll shove it under her hat, and that would stop her hairs from showing under her hat. Omer le'abaye, if that's the case, the sahaba kabiris tahira. It should be like a biris tahira, which you're allowed to wear on Shabbos because you're not going to pull it out because you want to keep her hair covered. Betishri, and in fact, it should be mutter. There shouldn't be a chash that she might pull it out. If it's keeping her hair concealed, she's not going to pull that out in public. A woman would use it to create a part in her hair. What could she use that? How could that be a takshit? Because it's actually used. It's not a takshit. It's actually a tool. It's like a comb. On Merova, I'll tell you why it could be considered a takshit on Shabbos, and why you'd be able to use it on Shabbos. Because tashel zov yeshla al roisha. On one end of this pin, there's a wider. Our pins aren't just pointy on both sides. They have a little round thing that you can grab. So if that thing was big enough and it was made out of gold, that could be used then, thank you, as a jewelry pin. So since this pin also had a flat surface on one end, she would put it into her hat in such a way where that flat gold surface would be exposed and it would act as jewelry. So b'choil chalekas b'sayra. During the weekday, she would use it to comb her hair with, to part her hair with. But on Shabbos, menichta keneget padachta. On Shabbos, she would put the pinion in such a way where that flat gold is by her forehead, and that would be used as a piece of jewelry. And that's why she's allowed to wear it. But the problem is, we're afraid she'll take it out to show her friends. Okay, Zokte hele the Mishnah weiter. Lo yetza ish b'sandal hamasomer. A person is not allowed to go out on Shabbos with a sandal hamasomer. A sandal hamasomer is a very interesting type of sandal. It had a wooden sole, and it had a leather top. And the way the leather was connected to the sandal is they nailed down the edges of the leather. They nailed it down to the edges of the wooden sole, but they had nails that were longer than the thickness of the sole. So when they nailed the straps or the leather covering into the wooden sole, the nails went through and acted like pegs at the bottom, almost like golf shoes. Golf shoes have pegs at the bottom. So since they nailed around the frame of the wooden sole, they nailed the leather down, it created some nails protruded from the bottom, and when someone would walk, you'd actually see those nail marks in the sand. That's one characteristic it had. Another characteristic it had is it was bidirectional, meaning you could put your foot into it the normal way, but you could also put your foot in it the opposite way. So your heel could be on the back of the shoe, or your heel could be at the front of the shoe. You would be able to slip your feet into it both ways. So it's almost like a train. It's bidirectional. So I could walk a mile in the shoes, and then I could turn around and put the shoes on from the other side and walk back in the other direction. The only thing is,
the heels were square. Maybe because they were square, right? It wasn't contoured to the foot. It must have just been a square piece of wood. It's like a
block of wood.
Block of wood, and then with leather on it, right? So it doesn't matter which side, which shoe you put on. There was no right, no left.
Could be.
It's the early version.
The Gemara doesn't speak about right or left, but maybe there was no right or left. But the most important thing is you could wear it both ways, but it wasn't completely symmetrical. Because if you wore it, you could actually tell. You could actually tell what the front was. So if you stepped on it, and I looked at the footprint, I would be able to see which was the front of the shoe and which was the back of the shoe. So even though you could put it on both ways, one way was really the right way. It just worked to also put it on backwards. So it's not like you wouldn't even be able to tell from the footprint. You'd actually be able to tell which is the front of the shoe and which is the back of the shoe. That's an integral piece of information. So you're not allowed to wear these on Shabbos. V'loy b'yachid. and you can't even wear it. And you're not allowed to wear one shoe. So you're not allowed to wear a pair of these sandal hamasumers, and you're not allowed to wear only one shoe. Bisman she'ein b'ragle makkah. That's unless you have a makkah on your foot, because if you have a makkah on your foot, then it's normal to wear one shoe. Otherwise, it's weird. And we're afraid, Rashi has two pshatim, but Rashi says in one shot, we're afraid that people are going to laugh at you that you're only wearing one shoe and then you'll take it off and carry it. But if you have a makkah on your foot, then it's normal to wear one shoe. V'loy b'tefillin, you're not allowed to go out with tefillin, which Gemara will explain. V'loy b'kameya, and not with a kameya, which we covered already. B'zman she'eina min hamumcha, if it's not a kameya of a mumcha. V'loy b'shiryon, v'loy b'kasta, v'loy b'gafayim. And these are all begadim that you would wear during war, like a shield or scales, which are big in milchama. You're not allowed to go out with them. But v'myotza eini chayav chatos. But if you do go out, you're not chayav chatos because they're considered a malbish. There's just gzeras for each one of these things why you're not allowed to. And now the Gemara is going to go through the gzera, explain why each of these things there was a gzera not to go out with them on Shabbos. Zok Gemara, sandal hamasumer. What could possibly be a problem with these shoes? They're just a different style of shoe. Why should they be restricted to use on Shabbos? My time, Omer Shmuel, this is a very, very famous Gemara that's brought down all over. My time, Omer Shmuel, Shalfei Hagzera Hayu, was at the end of the period of the Gzera. And the article actually says that Gzera is a word that was put in because of the censor, and really you should say Shalfei Hashmat Hayu. And it was at a time at the end of the Beis Hamikdash period where the Romans had really clamped down on the Jews, and they were not allowed to learn Torah. And it was at the worst period, it was towards the end of that period of time. In order to learn Torah, they would squeeze into a mire, and which something that says something very nice about us Eden is that even though Torah was outlined, this cave we're going to soon see was squishy and squished to capacity. Not because they had to hide because they were going to get killed. They could walk the streets freely. They're just not allowed to be learning. Yet the mire was so overcrowded with people who were coming to learn and literally risking their lives to do so. The Omer, they needed to have security because they didn't want anyone to be caught learning. So the rule in the cave was, anybody who wants to come in could come in. But if you want to leave, you're not allowed to leave. And I don't understand this. Maybe you can help me. And Rashi explains is that if they would see footsteps from people leaving the cave, then they would be caught that they were learning. But for some reason, they weren't concerned about the Romans seeing footprints entering the cave. I'm sorry. I do know why. Rashi says, because before you enter the cave, you can look around to make sure that no one's watching you. But when you leave, when you open the door to the cave, you have no idea if somebody's right outside the cave. And when you leave, they might catch you. What I don't understand is that if you're leaving footprints, what's the difference if someone's there or not? Even if I look around when I enter the cave and nobody's around and I sneak in, but if I'm leaving footprints, I could get detected anyway. Unless there must be that they didn't leave footprints. But that's what we're going to soon see, whether or not they left footprints. If they didn't leave footprints, I understand this Gemara. Because when I leave, I can't leave, because if I open the door, someone might detect me. When I come in, before I get near the cave, I look around to make sure no one's watching me. But the problem is, we're going to soon see in the Gemara that there were footprints. And that's why I don't understand this, because once there's footprints, it doesn't matter. Someone's always going to find me. So if anybody can help me understand this, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, they had a rule. Anybody can come into the cave, because you'll make sure no one's watching you when you come in, but no one's allowed to leave the cave, because we might get caught. What happened was, Nepach sandaloi shel echad mehen. One person that was coming into the cave wore this sandal hamasumah backwards. So when he came in and they opened the door for him and they looked outside and they saw prints which to them looked like someone had left the cave. Even though they were from this person who had just entered the cave, since he was wearing his sandal hamasumah backwards, to them it looked like someone left the cave. And you can imagine the fear and the panic that's going on. When they saw that, they panicked. They thought, hey, there's footprints here that show someone left. That means somebody must have left. And now it's possible that the enemy saw, and now we have been discovered. And now they're going to come to liquidate us. So there was such panic in this crowded cave and people were wearing sandal hamasumers, so people were wearing lethal footwear. That panic caused everyone to kick around inside, and it cost so many to get hurt. Rashi says because they were wearing those type of shoes, that many people got hurt. And because of that, no longer are you allowed to wear these types of shoes on Shabbos. They didn't even ask it all year round. They only asked it on Shabbos. Nothing to do with footsteps, someone coming in, coming out. Rather,
they got hurt or they got killed?
It says they got killed.
Okay.
So I don't understand this first shot, because if there's footsteps, what's the difference if the footsteps are coming in or leaving, right? Either way, someone could detect them. So that's why I had a little bit difficulty understanding. The second shatim would indicate that there were no footprints at all. If there's no footprints at all, then they understand the Gemara beautifully. They let people come in because you'll make sure no one's watching you when you come in. You'll make sure not to leave footprints in the sand, and you're fine. But leaving, you have no idea if someone's watching as you're about to leave.
How do you see anything about footprints? Where does it mention anything?
Because it says they saw the footprints that looked like someone left the cave.
So they weren't worried about footprints. They really weren't worried about footprints. They weren't worried about footprints.
Right, but my question, why not? That's my question. Why not? Of course, the Gemara Klor says they're not worried about footprints. They're only worried about being caught in the act of leaving the cave. But my question is, why wouldn't they not worry about footprints?
If the footprints were going out, maybe they weren't worried because then the Romans would think that they were left. There was nobody in the cave. That's what makes sense, but I don't know how that fits in here. If they were,
but every person who came in left footprints.
But I don't think they're worried. I don't think it doesn't seem like they were worried about the Romans tracking down the footprints.
They clearly
were worried about the Romans seeing people entering the cave, leaving the cave, right? Because if you leave the cave, you don't know if you were seen or not. If you enter the cave, then you are able to make sure that you're not being seen going in. But when you're leaving, you can't check.
And footprints could mean anybody. Could be a hunter was there, like not someone learning.
What they saw was when this guy.
You see a Jew leaving the cave with his Gemara, they know there's a problem.
Right. So what they saw here was somebody. I guess when this guy came in, they saw footprints looking like somebody had gone out. So they were concerned that somebody had gone out, and if somebody went out, that they had been seen.
That's right. Yeah, they were never concerned about footprints. I just didn't understand why they weren't concerned. But I guess the Romans didn't look for footprints.
It seems also that the capacity for the cave, this cave, like an elevator, really is only meant to hold 6 people. And obviously they doubled and tripled it with mass. So it had only 6, maybe room for 6. And they ended up putting in 12 or 15. So when a Roman was coming by,
so they were busted for not maintaining social distancing.
This is on top of everything else. And when they came out, so in other words, if the Roman guard who was by and saw a footprint said, okay, it was a cave, one person, he just left. Right? I don't know I still don't understand what the people inside, what did they see?
People went into caves. But it's the learning that was the problem. You see a Jew coming out with a sefer, that's when you have a problem. Okay, at least now it's clear. I just for some reason my brain fixated on footprints, and I don't know why. They're totally irrelevant. They're only relevant to the first shot because that created the panic when they saw footprints that seemed to indicate that someone had left. Omer, much simpler. They heard footsteps on top. Now they're terrified because they're about to get discovered. And that caused panic. They weren't in the cave. They were in the Beis Medrash. And they heard some noise behind the shul. And they thought that the Oivim were coming to attack the shul. Again, panic ensued. I'm sure people who hid from the Nazis can appreciate the fear that these people had.
Yossi, what does this have to do with Shabbos? Carrying on Shabbos.
The Gemara is going to get there in a minute.
Okay.
The Gemara has exactly the same question. What does it have to do with Shabbos? Well, we're not talking about carrying. We're talking about wearing this style shoe. Well, at that point they said, because of this story, you're not allowed to go out on Shabbos with these shoes. In fact, the Gemara, Duvis Kasha, what does this have nothing to do with Shabbos? it should be usher. If they want to outlaw these shoes, they should be outlawed permanently. So tomorrow, no, Maiseki Hava b'Shabbos Hava. Since the story occurred on Shabbos, they limited the Gzeira to only to be on Shabbos. It's interesting how they made the Gzeira. Fact the Gemara.
Yossi, maybe it's the nails that killed them. In other words,
It was the nails. It was the nails that killed them.
Oh, it was the nails.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The point is, Rashi says, the third Rashi at the bottom, when they're pushing and shoving. They had these types of shoes that had the nails going through. So they had nails, they had spikes on their shoes. So when there's kicking and shoving going on, and people have spikes on their shoes, that's why it was fatal. Now, I just chapped what the swar is. This is not a gzeira that it might come to an Isra Aloha, a violation of Shabbos, so they make it an encompassing Aloha. They probably just wanted to remember the tragic story, but they had no reason to outlaw these shoes. So because of that, they limited it to Shabbos, just that we should remember the story. I'm just suggesting that might be the reason.
Well, if it happened on Thursday, they were all wearing sandals on Thursday?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's the Gemara says.
Look at 41.
The scroll says you're shot, but fakir.
Look at 41.
What does 41 say? The Satan will not consider the tragedy will occur at the time.
People about the tragedy on Shabbos.
Uh-huh. So it wasn't a halacha to prevent something, then it would have been vast. But since it's just to commemorate an event, they kept it only on Shabbos. In fact, the more so Yom Tov lishtery. So why is it usher to wear these shoes on Yom Tov? And I'm going to show you that they are usher on Yom Tov. Why did they extend the Gzeira if it's only supposed to commemorate Shabbos? Alamatnan. Why did we learn Mishalchin Kalim b'Yom Tov? You're allowed to send Kalim on Yom Tov, Bein Tfor and Bein She'ein Tfor, whether they're sewed or not, because you can use those on Yom Tov. Anything that can be used on Yom Tov is not muksa, and you're allowed to send it to somebody. Avaloi Sandal HaMasumar. You're not allowed to send a Sandal HaMasumar. So clearly that indicates that on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to wear a Sandal HaMasumar. Maloi Minol She'ein Toffer, and a shoe that's not sewn, I guess it can't be used for anything. The reason is simple. The Shabbos my time. Why did they aser on Shabbos? Why is Shabbos relevant? Mishum the Ika Kinufya. Because on Shabbos, Rashi says, since we don't work, we get together in shul to daven and learn. And that story also was based on a whole bunch of people clustered together. So we're making the Gzeira in places where people are clustered together. So b'Yom Tov nami Ika Kinufya. On the Yom Tov also people clustered together, and that's why they felt appropriate to aser the Sandal HaMasumar on Yom Tov as well. In fact, the Gemara, Tanis Sibur Ika Kinufya, Litzer. By a Tanis Sibur, people also gather together in shul, even though it's not Shabbos and Yom Tov. So why didn't they extend the prohibition of Sandal HaMasumar to Tanis Sibur as well? So tomorrow, Ma'aseki Hava b'Kinufya di Isura. What type of gathering is it on Shabbos and Yom Tov? It's a gathering that's on a day where it's usher to do malacha. But Haka Kanufya de Terhava, the gathering that occurs on the time of Sibur is a gathering without a Isra malacha. And that's why they decided only to extend this Gzeira to commemorate this horrible event on days where people gather and there's an Isra malacha. Zok to Gemara weiter, Va'afilu Reb Chanina ben Akavia. And even according to Reb Chanina ben Akiva, Rashi tells us that there was a very interesting Gzeira. If someone carries the water that has the ashes of the paraduma mixed into it, or he actually carries the actual ashes of the paraduma, if he carries them on a boat or on a bridge over a river, it's a gzeira that it becomes tamei. Why is it a gzeira that it becomes tamei? Because there was a story that happened that they were once transporting a batch of mechatos or efer paraduma over the river Yarden on a boat, and they found a sheretz stuck in to the floorboards, stuck in the floorboards of the ship. I'm sorry, they found the kazais min mace stuck in to the floorboard of the ship, and that made that passel the mechatos and the Efer Chatos, and because of that, they made a Gzeira. And the Rabbanim were geyser that a person should never carry mechatos across a boat, across a river. It doesn't matter if it's in a boat. It doesn't matter if it's on a bridge. It doesn't matter if it's the Yarden. It doesn't matter if it's any other river. You're not allowed to transport any mechatos over water, period. Reb Chanina said, no, don't make such a broad gzera. He said it's only usher over the Yarden. It's only usher in a boat. If you travel in a boat in any other water, there is no such gzera. And if you travel over the Yarden on a bridge, it's also not a problem. They're only going to answer exactly what it was that occurred at the time. So, Reb Chanina ben Akiva, the Omer lo osru al b'yarden uv'svino chamaisha shahaya, even according to Reb Chanina ben Akiva, who limits the gzera to only precisely what happens. So you might ask, how could we extend this to Yom Tov? Why don't we stick only to exactly what happened, which is Shabbos, even though there are similarities between the Yarden and other bodies of water? Hanamili Yarden, the shiny Mishar Naharis. The Yarden is different than any other river. Why? No two rivers have exactly the same depth and exactly the same width. So the Yarden is more unique. Yom Tov and Shabbos Yom Tov and Shabbos are more similar than different rivers compared to each other, and that's why they included on the Gezerah of not to wear a sandal HaMesumar. They included in that Isser Yom Tov as well. Ditnan, Ein ben Yom Tov l'Shabbos ala oichel nefesh b'lvad. The Mishnah tells us that Yom Tov and Shabbos are exactly alike, besides the halacha of the heter halacha for oichel nefesh and Yom Tov. That's why they included that in the Gezerah. So now we know why a sandal HaMesumar you're not allowed to wear on Shabbos. And I'm going to ask everybody Pshat, because I'm not sure Pshat. It says in the Mishnah, Lo yetze ish b'sandal HaMesumar. Does that mean you're only not allowed to go outside with it? Or does that mean you're not allowed to wear it at all? It seems from the Lashon Mishnah, you can't go outside, but you could go inside. So he brings down over here in the art scroll that although the Mishnah says you can't go out at all, he brings down that from the Rishonim, in fact, that the Isser was to wear it b'chalal. You weren't even allowed to wear it inside. It was totally usher to wear such a shoe. Okay, so the Gemara weiter.
It would make sense that it would be only outside because the whole thing happened in public in a gathering, just like we were saying, right? It was ushered because of a gathering. Shabbos, Yom Tov.
The Lashon HaMishnah is lo yetze, so it's mashma. It's relevant to the Isser of carrying.
Right.
But in fact, the Isser doesn't do with carrying. The Isser is to wear. You're suggesting the Isser should only be to wear it under the same circumstances in which it was
going
worn
outside
there.
in public. Because
But there it had nothing to do with going outside. There it had to do with the inside.
But it meant like in a public gathering, right? Because it was a gathering, right? We said that's why it said shul, Knesset, and Shabbos and Yom Tov.
So you're suggesting that maybe it's only usher where there's a lot of people together.
Yeah, or where you're going out. That's what it means by going out, because you're going out.
It's an outdoor shoe. It's for golfing. You don't use it outdoors.
Oh, you mean the backyard minion?
Your wife wouldn't let you wear it inside. It would scratch the floors. So it doesn't have to tell you about the inside.
It just seems logical to me that aren't you going to step on somebody's foot? If it is an exposed nail on the bottom, nobody's really wearing, doesn't talk, the top you said was only covered with a leather strap. So it was a sandal. Correct. That means the foot is exposed. I step on your foot, as it is, it hurts, with a nail on the top, you're going to get, I don't want to say who, but that's how Yoshka got nailed.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened in this cave. And that's why people got badly hurt.
The Hebrew article brings down Yerushalmi that says that they only had one pair of shoes, and the Chachamim were samech on that. They Asher and Shabbos, Memela, they'd stop wearing them altogether.
Okay, I'm happy you brought that up because that Yerushalmi is the source of a very big shaila. Is as a person mechuyev to have a separate pair of shoes for Shabbos? Because the Lashon Yerushalmi is it's in Shabbos Perek Vav Halacha Beis Lav Urche the Varnosha. It's not the derech of a person. Mahavalei trained sandalin have two pairs of shoes. Chad l'choila v'chad l'shufsa. That's the Lashon HaGemara, the Lashon Yerushalmi. There's actually a machloikas in Rishonim how to learn this word in the Yerushalmi? Is it read as a
Move
statement?
it over a little bit, Yossi. Move it over a little so I can see it.
Okay. It doesn't really, just this last number. Is it read as a statement or is it read as a question? So there are Meforshim who learns, isn't it the derech to have two separate pairs of shoes? So there was actually a shaila. If Yerushalmi means that people only had one pair of shoes or two pairs of shoes, and it has a big nafkamina because in our Gemara, if it was normal only to have one pair of shoes, then in fact by the Chazal ushering you to wear a sandal hamasomer on Shabbos, in effect they're outlined a sandal hamasomer completely, because in practicality people only had one pair of shoes. So that's how it leads into the Yerushalmi. Do you need two pairs of shoes or not? And based on how you learn the Yerushalmi, there's actually a shaila halacha. In fact, if you have to have a separate pair of shoes, and the Gemara in Shabbos that we're going to learn soon says a person has to have special big day Shabbos, right? The Gemara says yesh lilbosh begadim yichad mil Shabbos shelo yeh malbushcha shel Shabbos ke malbushcha shel chayil. So the question is a shoe a malbish? So there are people who want to bring a raya that a shoe is not a malbish, because besides saying the bracha of malbish arumim and birchas hashachar, which is referring to clothing, we say sha'asali called tzarki, which is referring to our shoes. So you see, maybe it's not considered a malbish, but there's a little bit of a shaila of whether or not it's considered a malbish. But at the end of the day, he brings down here, very interesting, this hakira, if you have to have a separate pair of shoes. So then he clears, based on that, if you have to have a separate shluf couple. So he brings down, the Chidah says, that it's a vade midas chasidus, lilboish begodim yichadim l'kavat Shabbos, koil minolim. It's a midas chasidus to have special clothing for Shabbos, including shoes. Koil hachalafas kipas hashina hamiyuchedes l'shinas halayla. You even have to have a separate shluf couple for Shabbos. And Gam on the Goyim Vilna, Zatzal they said an edus on the Vilna Goyim, he hechlev it's kol levushov mikaf regel v'yadroish l'chavet Shabbos amalka. He actually completely changed over his entire wardrobe l'chavet Shabbos. Okay, so
maybe this Gemara is the source that you need to have a pair of shoes for Shabbos. Maybe because of the gezerah that you can't wear these sandals on Shabbos. This is what caused people to wear a pair of shoes.
Because they wanted those shoes in the weekdays. Dafka.
They had utility. The problem is that they'd remind you of what happened. They didn't want you to be in a state of availus on Shabbos. Every time you would put on the shoes on Shabbos, you would think, oh, what happened in the cave? So you have to go and get a different pair of shoes. And because you're not working on Shabbos, they don't need to have the same utility as these.
I hear. It's a nice perspective. Very nice. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. Zogt the Gemara weiter. The Tanam. This that we said that you're not allowed to have a sandal masumer, that's if it's like exactly like what Victor says. If it's functional, it's not allowed. You're not allowed to use it. However, the style you're allowed to use. So it's interesting enough. If you want to have a style that it should look like a sandal hamasober, that's not a problem. The only thing we're outlining, if it actually is a sandal hamasober that's made for it to protect it. And Rashi says, again, the gzera is only not because it looked like a sandal hamasober, because it was actually a sandal hamasober. Those nails were not decorative nails; they were nails to hold it together. So Zok Gemara, the Kamalanoy. What is the maximum amount of nails you can have in a sandal, where we could say just for the style and it's not functional, and therefore it won't be usher on Shabbos? On each of the two shoes, you're allowed to have 5 nails. Reb Chanina Omer, on each one of the shoes, you can have 7 nails. Let me explain to you how these 7 nails or how these 5 nails, how they're distributed around the sandal. The 5 nails are distributed 2 on one side. So if I'm looking at a shoe, 2 on the side that faces the inside, 2 on the side that faces the outside, and 1 where the strap connects. The Reb Chanina, who said that you're allowed to have 7, it would be gimel mikan, 3 nails on either side. Meisei. So the Gemara asks, sandal hanoita. What if you have a sandal? Akiva described it, the sole of the sandal, as a block of wood. Well, what happens is, as you use it for a while, usually the outer heel gets worn down. We know we put taps on the outer edge of our heel. So if you have this wooden sole and the outer edge got worn down, so now when you wear it, you would appear to be bow-legged because your foot would be on an incline. So how do you fix that? Also, Sheva, you can put 7. You're allowed to put extra nails in Divrei Reb Nosson. Now, I touched it that you're putting the nails in because the nails hopefully would grip the ground, and maybe lift it up to level it off. I don't know exactly how nails do that, but at this point, the Gemara does not feel that the fact that it's leaning, that it's worn out, that changes anything. And you still have to stick to the same rules of what the maximum amount of nails that you could put in to consider it lenoi, so it doesn't cross the threshold into a sandal hamasumah. So a sandal hanoita, oislo sheva, you could have 7, divrei Reb Nosson. Rebbe mativ yud gimel, and Rebbe allows 13. So to our Bishlam Reb Chanina, who said a moment ago that each sandal could have 7, because it's 3 on each side and 1 in the middle, that's very consistent with what Rebbe said. Hudu Omer Reb Nosson. It would be like Reb Nosson, because Reb Nosson says Sheva. El Reb Yochanan, who holds it's 5 per shoe, the Omer Kamam. Who is he going to hold like? Reb Nosson in this price it clearly says 7, and Rebbe says 13. So where do you have 5? Who is he able to align himself with? So Hudu Omer Reb Nehorai. He holds like Reb Nehorai, who holds 5 is good. The Tanya Reb Nehorai Omer, hey muter v'sheva aser. So you have Tanoim who are arguing about how many nails crosses the threshold from a decorative nails to functional nails. Amale Eifa le-Rabbi Bar Chana. Eifa the Chacham told Rabbi Bar Chana, Atun Talmidei Rabbi Yochanan, since you're the Talmidei Rabbi Yochanan, you have to be machmer. Avidu Rabbi Yochanan, then you can only allow 5 nails in each sandal before it becomes osir. Anan, but we could hold like Rabbi Chanina, and we can allow 7 in each sandal. Boim Rav Huna Merabashi. In a different place at a different time, Rav Huna asked the Shaila from Rabashi, Chamish Mau, am I allowed to put 5 nails into a shoe? Omer lei, so Rabashi answered, I feel a zayin mutter. I would even allow 7 nails to be put into the shoe. Tes mai, what about 9? Omer lei, I feel ches osir. Even 8 will be osir. So 7 is the maximum. So clearly, he's paskening like Reb Chanina. Baiminahu ritzana mirab ami. A shoemaker asked Reb Ami, what happens if I take one of these sandals? Imagine it's a wooden bottom, and it has some leather straps on top to hold your foot in. And then he took a lining. He took he took a full upper part of a shoe, and he slid it in, and he's just using the sole of the original wooden shoe as a sole. But now it's not a sandal anymore. Now it's a full shoe. So what happens if tafru mibifnim? If he put a full shoe on top of that wooden platform, amalei mutter, it would be mutter. V'lo yadana my time. It's mutter, but I don't know why. Omar, what do you tell him? Omar le Rabashi. Rabashi told him, V'lo yadana my time. You don't know the reason. Kivan the tafru mibifnim. Once you modified it and you put this lining in, havale minol. It's not a sandal on a summer anymore. It's a minol. The sandal goes rabbanon. The minol goes rabbanon. Once you change it, once you change this object, it's no longer the item that the rabbanon prohibited. What happens if also come in kalbos? Kalbos is a staple. So what if I just knock nails into it? I knocked staples into it. So again, it's the same function, but it still is not the same object. Now, what would be the halacha? Amalei mutter. Kalbos, if you use the staple, it would be mutter. It manami Omer Reb Yosy bar Chanina, also come in kalbos mutter. If you connected the upper to the lower with staples rather than individual nails, it will be mutter. Omer Reb Sheshes, how about chifeyu kulu b'mismorais kidei shelo yisehei karka echlosei? This is mamish a golf shoe. What if I studded the entire, not just where I'm connecting the straps, but I studded the entire wooden sole with nails. So now instead of me walking with wood coming into contact with the ground, only the tips of the nails that are protruding through the sole are going to come into contact with the ground. And Rashi tells us the reason why they did that is because if the wood would come in contact with the ground, it would eventually rot out. By raising the sole up, it was almost like a hovercraft. They would be walking around like a hovercraft, so the wood wouldn't come in direct contact with the earth. Would that be mutter?
Is this a high-heeled shoe? Is it?
It was nailed. The nails lifted off the ground.
How high are the nails off the ground? I keep visualizing is it an inch and a half off the ground? Are they walking on stilts, or it's just sticking out a little bit?
Well, it depends if it was Ferragamo or Bali. The Ferragamo might be an inch and a half. The Bali might be 2 inches. I'm not sure. But it was enough that the wood wouldn't come in contact with the moist earth that could potentially rot out the soil, the sole. So Kamar Mutter, it's Mutter. Tanya Kavasa Reb Sheshes. We learned support Reb Sheshes that allows you to have a golf shoe, that allows you to wear a golf shoe on Shabbos. It says, Lo yetzer ish b'sandal ha'masumar, v'lo yitayal mibayis l'bayis, afilu mimita l'mita. So here it clearly states that it's not just an issue of going out of Mishus Rabbim. Even in your own house, you're not allowed to wear a sandal ha'masumar at all. Avo metaltal noisoi l'chasis boy is a kli. You're not allowed to wear the shoes, but you're allowed to use the shoes for some other function, or v'lismoich boy kare amita, or to support a bed with it. Reb Elazar Shimon oiser, and Reb Shimon asers. Now noshru roiv mimis moraisa, if most of its nails fell out, v'nishtayir boy dal roihei, and there's only 4 or 5 left, mutter, it's going to be mutter. Rebbe mater at sheva, and Rebbe's mater up until 7 nails. Chifei ba'or milamata. What if you put underneath the sole, you coated the bottom of the wooden sole with leather, or v'kavoloi mismarish milamaila, or you put a whole bunch of nails on top? Mutter, then it would be mutter, because any modification to the style, which now makes it no longer the exact specs of a sandal hamasumar, is going to make it mutter. Also, kimin kabels, although the Bach takes it out. If you use staples, like kimin tas, or if the nails on top didn't have regular nail tops, they had a longer, flatter nail top, or kimin yeset, or there was no nail top at all, it was just a peg that was pointed at the bottom and at the top. Oy shechifeu kula b'mismaris, which is the punchline that we're looking for. So you see, Reb Sheshes halacha that if it's full of nails at the bottom, it's no longer a sandal hamasumar, is supported by this brisa. Now the Gemara is going to go back and analyze the brisa. Hagu v'kasha, the brisa that we just discussed is a steer mineuve, because Amru, the brisa starts off by saying noshru roiv misparosov, if roiv of the nails fell out. So let's say I made this sandal hamasumar with 100 nails. So if 51 nails fell out, according to the brisa, that is no longer a sandal hamasumar. But I have 49 nails left. So it's possible to have a sandal with 49 nails in it that's still going to be mutter, because it's still less than half of the 100 nails that this shoe started with. Even if I have 49 nails. And then a moment later, the Brisa says, because if you look at the Brisa, it says, in Tveiloi. So is it about having less than 50% of the original amount of nails, or do you have to reduce the amount of nails down to 4 or 5? It all depends. If you've completely pulled the nails out, then I have no idea when I look at this shoe if it ever had more nails. So therefore, if there's 49 nails left in a shoe and I can't see any remnant or record of the fact that there were more nails, when I look at the shoe, it looks like a sandal hamasumar. And therefore, I would have to take out as many nails until there's only 4 or 5 left. But if I never pulled the nails out, they just got ground down, but I could still see that there are nails there, even though they're not functional anymore, but I still see they're there, then once I reduce the amount of nails to less than 50%, clearly I've modified the sandal hamasumar, and it would be mutter to use.
Yossi?
Yes.
It doesn't seem like from the earlier modifications that the look of it makes a difference. It's just that the fact that you modified it enough, because like the one where the leather's underneath, I mean, so it doesn't seem like even if they change it and someone would still look at it and it would still look like a sandal, So that wouldn't be an issue.
Why isn't that a noticeable difference? If I put the leather sole at the bottom or put a liner on the top, why aren't
If you put
noticeable modifications?
If there's 7 as opposed to how many nails, who the heck's going to see how many nails are in there? No one's going to see that.
But I guess it
So
must
the modification
be,
has nothing to do with what the look is.
But I guess it must be that a normal Sandal Summer had more nails than 7, right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't see that. So I'm saying the modification shouldn't have any bearing of whether. Sorry.
Why wouldn't you notice that?
How would you notice that?
If there's 3 nails knocked into either side of the shoe in the strap, you'd see that. If you look at the strap, you could see if there's laces, you could see if there's nails.
You have to look.
It must be visible, otherwise you have a very good kasha. Yeah, but it must be visible, otherwise you have a very good kasha, right? If they're discussing the nitty gritties, it's 4 or 5, is it 6 or 7? It must be that there's a shiloh, what it looks like.
I mean, seriously, if you're walking
are you suggesting?
you're gonna. No, it seems like it doesn't, like the modification doesn't have to be the fact that it's noticeable. Because,
so you're saying it's a technical thing?
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Okay,
but then now you're changing. But now at the bottom, you said it because it doesn't look like it.
Oh, so you're asking if it's a technical thing. What's the difference? What's the difference if it's noticeable or not? If it's a technical thing,
Victor,
you're asking a very good question.
Yeah, Victor, did you find that? Could you post that on your screen? Do you know how to share screen? Is he still here?
Find what?
Victor's still here, but he's muted.
Yeah, he did. He's here. You found this, the shoe, right?
Yeah.
So I want to. Dovi's asking a very good question. Dovi's asking, is it a technical thing? If it's a technical thing, is this a sandal masumah or not? If it's a technical thing, why does the Gemara say that it makes a difference if the nails got ground down and you could still see that they were there, or if they were never there to begin with? That's Dovi's kasha. It's actually, I think it's a very good kasha. I have to think about it. I think it's a very good question. Is it a technical issue, or is it because of what it looks like? So let's see what Rashi says. Maybe we'll have a clue if we see what Rashi says. So Rashi on Shenigmamu says, Shenigmamu milamaila, they were worn down above, for Yishume Nicker, but you could still see that they're there, b'soich eitz. So then afilu tuva, even if there's many more nails than 5 or 7, as long as roy of them are gone, the minker she'ene kibriyasa. You can tell that it's not in its original status. But so I'm not sure, but Rashi clearly says that if you can tell on the shoe that it's no longer the way it was originally constructed, that would make it lose its status of a sandal masumah. So maybe it's still a technical like what you said. If we're starting from scratch, and the question is this technically a sandal masumah or not? Then the question is, what are the maximum amount of nails you can have to make it technically a sandal masumah? But if it for sure started off as a sandal masumah, and the question is, how much does a sandal masumah have to be modified for it to lose its name as a sandal masumah? Then there has to be a noticeable difference. And the noticeable difference means you can tell that most of the nails are no longer here. So maybe it is all technical. So when you're discussing what makes it into a sandal masumah in the first place, there it's technical specs that decide that, how many nails it's allowed to have. But we have now a sandal that everybody agreed was a sandal masumah. It started off that way. So how could I modify a sandal masumah to lose its status? There it's perception. There I have to reduce the amount of nails until it's noticeable. And that would be noticeable if there's less than half the amount of nails in it than it started with. Does that make sense to me?
Yep.
Okay, so let's see the Gemara right here. Sorry for bringing it up because I totally missed that. That's a very, very good point.
Yeah, see, it's 8:40. I don't know what people's plans are. I gotta dive in. Do you want? How much more do we have?
A couple of lines. It's easy stuff.
Okay, go
no
ahead.
No more technical stuff. So Zok Gemara, the question was that the garage said either 4 or 5. So has the Chami Shari Arba Mivoy? What do you mean 4 or 5? If 5 is mutter, 5 nails are mutter, 4 nails is even less than that. Omer Chista Arba Misandal Cotton, the Chamish Misandal Cotton. It depends. If it's a big shoe, then you're allowed 5. If it's a small shoe, you're allowed 4. Rebbe Mater at Sheva, but Tanya Rebbe Mater at Shlosh Esrei. You know what? Here we'll stop. This does get technical. So we'll stop right over here. We'll pick up from Rebbe tomorrow. Okay. Shkoyach, everybody. Shkoyach.